Really?
Okay, so we'll start this officially. And I am now recording. This is week 4 of critical thinking. I had a couple of people pop on in here. Let me make sure I have them down. If I don't do it now, then it will definitely get messed up. Okay, so what we're covering here is, for some reason, the reading material is not here for chapter 12. Just go over to the right with the thing that looks like a book. You'll see where it says full book. If you click on it, and then you can go to the right here, what Bob calls the 3 dots, and then you can scroll down to chapter 12. So will that help? No problem, Trinity. I know people work and everything, so try not to get upset when you're just a couple of minutes late. I was telling everybody earlier, I didn't get here till 10 till 6. I'm running in the house, trying to get my computer set up, and then I even left. We had a chili cook-off on campus today, which you guys should be sad you missed, because we had a bunch of really good chili. And then I even left the crock pot in the car because I didn't have enough time to get it out. So does that cover how to get to chapter 12? Okay, no problem. And remember, when you're on Cengage right here, if for some reason something happens, you can always get to your book. Also, and I'm not sure what it looks like for you guys, but if you have a library here, of course something went wrong. Why wouldn't it go wrong? There we go. You should be able to go in and download the book, or look at the book through here as well. So maybe that'll be okay. So here we go with this week is, let me double check here. This week was chapter 10, constructing arguments, chapter 11, reasoning critically, and chapter 12, which is thinking critically and living creatively. And just remember, not everybody's creative. Truly creative people are hard to come by. And I really admire people who can really, do these amazing things. There he is with his gear on. I'm trying to find you. Oh. Oh. Got your last name for a minute. So, like I said, really admire people who are truly creative. Your artists, your actors, anybody who can kind of think outside the box and create something new. So, not everybody's creative, and which is fine. And I'm not. My wife is. My wife is the crafter and does all the cool stuff. I just enjoy the fruits of those labor, the cool T-shirts and coffee cups and whatnot. So, A long day. Yes, it has been. So any, we're just going to go through some of these questions here. Does anybody have a chapter that they would prefer? Nope. Okay. Everybody looks just unamused and tired and beat down today. It could be the weather, guys. I know I am fighting a stupid sinus headache um, today, and I've been fighting it all day. So, all right, I've got to move. Please don't mess up my screen. There we go. So we have on chapter 12, there are 25 questions. Help me answer these if you don't mind, so we can all get through this. The most important disturbing element of personal freedom is that it necessarily involves gaining the respect and trust of others. Is that true or false? Anybody got an opinion on that one? Okay, I'm gonna check my work. That is correct. Now, personal freedom, like we see it here in the Western world, and as the founders kind of described it in the Constitution, that in itself should not ever involve. I have two at home with the flu and one don't. I'm really sorry, Shaniqua. Just sounds sick. Kids are terrible. I, we've been through all that. Just I'm glad my children are grown, and my daughter is raising her own children. We had I'll tell a story later, but we had a little bit of a weird deal with a grandson not too long ago, the youngest one. So, but as we see it in the Western world, as it's put forward in like the Constitution, our personal freedoms, our inalienable rights, natural rights, um, should not involve anyone else. You should not have to depend on anyone else to exercise those rights. Okay, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, those things don't require anyone else to participate. You can do them on your own. That's why, uh, and we have some people in the medical profession here when they say healthcare is a right, and it might be, but necessarily it involves someone else's labor on your behalf. Okay. So, and part of that is what do we do with their personal freedom if they decide they don't want to participate? Okay. What happens to them? So, I'm not saying it is or isn't a right. I believe everybody should have health care, good health care. Mine is personally through the VA. So, I've got okay health care. They take pretty good care of me there in Muskogee. But I don't know if I consider that as something that I'm entitled to just because I exist, and because I'm not, and that's and the Second Amendment is another one I talk about. You're allowed to uh, bear arms. So, oh, thank you, Deb. Well, they just keep me medicated so I don't, skits out, go into a PTSD episode and make everybody's life miserable. But like the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, you have the right to it, but unlike what they consider with healthcare, they're not providing you with the gun, right? You have to go get that on your own. So, although you're entitled to defend yourself and have your arms, yes, it does, Robin. It really does. PTSD is no fun. Um, but you're entitled to the right to defend yourself, but you're not entitled to someone else to create that property for you and give it to you or buy it for you. So that's my little speech on personal freedoms. Because our freedom is so limited by internal, external constraints, our responsibility is diminished because the constraints we find ourselves burdened with are typically the results of forces outside our control. I got a false. Golly, guys. Okay. And that's something that we usually don't talk about. And I'm still kind of on the political kick since we just got over the election. That we talk about our inalienable rights, whether it be right to bear arms, right to freedom of speech, religion. But we don't hear a whole lot about the responsibility it comes with those. And and that's just for political purposes as well. I don't think anybody wants, no one would, no politician wants to stand up and say you have the right to this, but there's a responsibility that comes along with it, because I think that people naturally would not appreciate that, at least not in that context. To exercise genuine freedom, you must have the insight to understand your options and the wisdom to make informed choices. That is absolutely true. And no matter where you stand on a lot of things, make sure you are informed. Okay. And in the current world, we have access to all the information, at least as much as we can, and also what they call misinformation. We have access to all the information and misinformation we could gather. And people tend to have a bias. They go to websites, news outlets, and things that back up their point of view. A lot of people don't go explore new options or new points of view. So, part of thinking critically is to go to those uncomfortable places, listen to other people that you don't necessarily agree with. To become informed, because no matter where you stand, not everybody's wrong all the time, except for me. If you ask my wife, I haven't been right in 29 years. Active thinking, like passive thinking, is habit forming. I got some truths on here. Okay. A lot of things are habit forming, and I think Jordan Peterson discussed that in our small 5-minute video I show on the beginning of every class, which is these habits become embedded in your brain. The more you do them, the more those neural pathways are created, and then it becomes a natural act. Anywhere from chewing your fingernails, which if anybody's ever tried to stop chewing your fingernails, or some of the other bad habits we might have, you understand it's very difficult to stop them. I think there was an old thing that said it took 21 days to break a bad habit. And so, a lot of us have habits that are, well, good and bad. And if you have any OCD, I'm not going to ask for volunteers, but you can always say, Joyce said, I have to get my nails done so I don't bite mine. My mom used to break a nail by a habit. My mom, to try to break me, she used to put hot sauce on my fingernails when I was a kid. It didn't work. I just learned to like hot sauce. But these neural pathways become so ingrained. You're building what he called little machines in your head that are habit forming. And if you have any kind of OCD, that becomes even a bigger problem. Nail polish remover. Yeesh. You. But lost my habit. I was thinking about nail polish remover and how gross it tastes. or how bad it even smells. But so in order to, break, we got these little machines in our head. And like I said, and if you have any sort of OCD, which I do a little bit, and I said, I want to, you don't have to volunteer any information you're not comfortable with. But if you suffer from any sort of OCD, you become really, really, really uncomfortable with breaking that. And sometimes it almost becomes a panic. And so, and you just can't control it. If you don't get to, if you break your routine, like my morning routine is very consistent, and it's the same way every morning. And if I don't get to go through that routine, I suffer for the rest of the day. It's always in the back of my mind, I didn't get to do this thing, or I didn't get to do that thing. Definitely, my daughter laughed when I tried to get hot sauce and popped her thumb back in her mouth. Oh, thumb sucking's a hard one with kids to break too, and binkies. And binkies are the worst. My daughter never took one, but my son, and you could, he had them hidden all over the house. You think he got them all gathered up, and all of a sudden he walks in the room with one in his mouth. Like, where the heck did you get that? Uh, your yourself is in its essence a dynamic life force that is capable of thinking critically, creating, and choosing freely. Absolutely. Good job, Emma. Working in partnership with critical thinking, creative thinking can be an enormous help in problem solving for people who are born with the creative touch. Got a false, false. Yep. So, and once again, truly creative people who do all these amazing things, and you see them on YouTube or TV. The guy takes a chainsaw to a block of ice, it creates a bear or an eagle or whatever. I can't even understand how that's done. Okay, I so truly creative is just a pleasure to watch. But if you also notice that they're truly creative people are always different sort of cats. You know, uh, they completely think differently than someone who is not creative. And many times it comes out, and we find some that behavior strange. And I talk about people who really, actors are one. Okay. Actors, those really talented actors in real life, you see them in interviews and things of that nature, and they're really, really odd people. When you do not have the will and the capacity to reflect, reason, and think critically about yourself, you're in danger of becoming an inner directed person. There we go. Now you have introverts and extroverts, and people are somewhere in the middle. And I also learned a new term which I've been researching, which seems a little weird to me, which is because we talk about alpha personalities, beta personalities, and I also heard of a sigma personality. Anybody ever heard of that? It's it's weird. It's mostly talking about men. Although external constraints may limit your freedom, the more challenging limits are the ones you impose on yourself through internal constraints. That is super true. The inability to get out of your own way. So the good life is a process rather than a state of being. Absolutely. I had a boss one time. Well, I worked for him 3 years one time, 3 years the other. And he had a conversation with us about, what if you had all the money you ever needed? You were supremely, super wealthy, and you didn't have to work anymore. No problem. No problem, Tammy. Um, And, most people are like, well, I'm going to go to the Caribbean, however you want to pronounce it, and sit on the beach and get a tan and drink Mai Tais or whatever. And he said, that's fine. And then what happens after the first month or 2 months or 6 months? What do you do then? And so that's why a lot of people have a problem retiring. You have to have a sense of purpose many times. If you feel like you don't have a sense of purpose anymore, then, a lot of things follow that. Depression, uh, you know, uh, behavior that's, not conducive to, a good mental health. And so that's why you always, people say, after people retire, um, they they uh, die soon after. I think that's a true statement, because when you have lack of purpose, what do you do? When you go to a nursing home, you notice people become ill and have issues, within just a few weeks. And many times it's just, like I said, once again, no sense of purpose. They don't have anything to get them up in the morning, uh, going to work, or taking care of children, or that type of stuff. The ultimate meaning of your life can be fully realized within the confines of yourself, of your own self. False. The meaning of life is 42. Nobody gets that? No Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans? Thank you, Adam.
I haven't seen that movie in so long. I'm sure if I watched it, I'd be like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Adam's got the full book series. Nice. Very great book. I've never read it. I used, when I was a kid, the British did a TV series about it. And then they finally made the movie with the guy that played Bilbo Baggins. I don't remember his name, a guy in the Avengers movies. Yeah. A radio show as well. See, learn something new. And the quality of your life philosophy is a direct result of your ability to, man, he's all over it. So long, and thanks for all the fish. uh, that's not one of the choices, though. Where we at? Thinking critically and creatively. Um, I got a B and a C and a B. Who said C? Joyce? Listen to what other people tell you to do. I want to disagree, Joyce. But then again, I'm so hard headed, I don't even listen to myself. So figure that one out. I believe my normal conversation with his wife is, I'm a grown man. I'll do what I want. And then I do what she wants. Somehow they always seem to coincide. What she wants and what I want, just, I don't know. As you achieve psychological freedom, your blank becomes increasingly more trustworthy because they reflect your deepest values and your genuine desires, your authentic self. Intuitions, absolutely. Because what is intuition anyway? Just, you know, parts of parts of your brain gathering information that you're not consciously aware of. Because we have these filters. If we didn't, then we'd just be bombarded with so much information, you wouldn't be able to function. But we do pick up on a lot of clues in body language and tone of voice and things of that nature. Completely work into that. The most disturbing element of personal freedom is that it necessarily involves personal responsibility. That's right. If you're going to be a free person, and I hold my quote fingers up, free, because we all have to live under some sort of constraints, right? Whether they're internal or external, and there's a lot of external constraints. That's why we have laws. That's why we have things that that hold us back. So, and if you want to act on many of your freedoms, you're going to find there's a responsibility and there's going to be some sort of consequences to them. You know, yes, I can do 120 miles an hour up Highway 75 because I'm a grown man and I do what I want. But then again, you know, I may end up in silver bracelets and in county before you can shake a stick. Okay. The ability to choose freely is crucial in that it provides the blank necessary to put creative and critical thinking into action. Ability to choose freely is crucial that it provides the will necessary to put creative. Yes. Okay. Had to read it for a minute. I had to read it again. Although your genetic background and early experiences have contributed to your personality, it is up to you decide who your future self will be. Now, we are limited on that, right? You know, genetics play a huge part, not only in personality, but who your future self can be. You know, I grew up in Northeast Texas, and what you did in high school in Northeast Texas, you played football. That's just what you did. But you know, I also knew that no matter how hard I worked, I was never going to play in the NFL. I didn't have the natural talent. You know, I always tell people I might have been small, but I made up for it by being slow. So genetics do limit you. And I always say, or I've noticed, the real athletes, the guys who are on that next level that go into college or past college, they're a different sort of animal. You know, if you're standing next to a guy like Shaq, you know, if aliens were to come down and I was standing next to Shaq, I'm not sure if they would be convinced we're the same. Lost my word. What was it? Oh, same species, right? Yep. You know, I'm not sure if they think we're the same species. So, you know, and that's the cool thing about the genetic, you know, the diversity, that everyone is different, has their own talents. You know, I'll never be 7 foot tall. I'll never play in the NBA. And I will say I was kind of a baller back in the day, but still wasn't that great. The 3 life principles of human transformation on which the book is based on are, okay, we'll go with B. Oh, thinking critically, living freely, and loving intensely. Thinking critically, think creative. Because I just skip past thinking wisely because the name of the book is not Wise Thinking. Thinking critically, thinking creatively, and choosing wisely, or thinking critically, living creatively, and choosing freely. Oh, we got to change. Let's check our answer. There we go. It's D. Thinking critically, living creatively, and choosing freely. And this is all the things we've kind of talked about just in the last 10 or 15 minutes, right? Those are kind of the themes here. And once again, you know, there's going to be different levels depending on your personality and, you know, and your genetic makeup on what percentage of those take part in your life. Oh, I didn't see you come in. Are you in the other class? 42 people. I don't remember who's in what class half the time. Yes, it starts at 7:30, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll be back.
All right, see you in a bit.
All right.
Certain beliefs that represent attempts to explain human behavior in terms of factors that precede human action, universal human nature, past experiences, psychological forces, and social dynamics, and that assume that the essence of a person comes before the human actions and in fact cause the actions to take place have the effect of blank the individual. Removing responsibility. Yep. But external factors do have a lot to do with it, but no, I'm not going to go with that. I'll circle back around before I make a huge blunder. The nature of blank provides an approach that recognizes that despite early influences on our development, our mind and our thinking continue to mature. And not only do we have ongoing experiences, but we reflect on those experiences and learn from them. Critical thinking. And the nature of critical thinking provides an approach that recognizes that despite our early influences now and on our development. And one of the things that this always brings up to me is teenagers. Teenagers really don't have the ability, for the most part, and I always try to put stuff right in the middle of the bell curve, to think critically. Their prefrontal cortex is not developed, and so they have risk-taking behavior. So for you guys who are going to have children that are going to be teenagers one of these days, and they really do something screwy, and you look at them and just go, "Why did you do this?" And they say, "I don't know." They truly have no idea. Not that it excuses the behavior, but they truly have no idea. And that, and that goes on into the 20s until you finally mature, till your brain finally matures and takes that over. That's why they always pick soldiers, straight out of high school. Soldiers will do all sorts of risky stuff. They'll jump out of planes, scale down walls, things that, once you're in your 30s, you go, nope, not doing that. So which of the following would help most people and provide a direction for college student thinking about a career? Completing an exploration of your interest and abilities. That is absolutely correct. I said, I hurt too much in my 30s to do the stuff that I did in the Army in my 20s. Wait till you're in your 50s, man. It doesn't get any better, Adam. Promise. But in my 30s, I was still doing pretty good in my 30s. I think it really started to fall apart in my 40s. Well, you'll be all right. The best place to begin your career, and I will say to Adam that dreams and fears, we'll go with that. That if you sustained any injuries in your 20s, you'll feel them in your 30s, but those things start to progress as you get in your 40s and 50s. I broken elbows, messed up, when I was on a night jump one time when I was 20 years old, and messed my knee up, and it was fine until it wasn't, and then it starts causing you problems later in life. Same thing when I broke my elbow, and arthritis starts to set in, when you're 20 years later. So the best place to begin your career quest is with your dreams and not your fears. Absolutely. Although I think budget is not far off either. Oh, did we get it wrong? Oh, I'll click budget and desires. What kind of knucklehead does that? Okay. A person who is paralyzed by anxiety at the thought of speaking in front of a group of people and as a result performs miserably could be said to be heavily influenced by, we have internal constraints. Absolutely. And do you know how to fix it? Does anybody, I'm sure there are a lot of people here. How many of you guys would rather chop off your little finger than speak in front of a group of people? Dev's one. Jasmine's one. Well, the best, Mandy's one. The best way to Mary Ross doesn't mind, and some people don't. I've never minded. I've spoken in front of 20, 200, 2,000 people, and I mean, the bigger the crowd does, a little more your anxiety, but uh, you say it don't anymore. But one of the secrets is you speak in front of a small group and get accustomed to that, then a little bit larger group and larger group and larger group until finally you come to a point where you can speak in front of as many people as you want without um, feeling so anxious. And a lot of people anxious and embarrassment comes in because but the anxiety is you're afraid you're gonna sound stupid. You're afraid people are gonna think you're dumb or all these other things. And so you have to get past that. And I think that's why a lot of people, not not to point anybody out, I'll just do this on everybody, hates doing discussions because they're afraid that all these people are going to read what they do and think, God, that's just, I can't believe Shatona wrote that. That's just the dumbest thing ever. And let's just be honest, no one's really thinking that because we're too far in our own head thinking I want to say something dumb in the discussions as well, right? So it's like when you're out of shape and you go to the gym, you're self-conscious and you go, man, I feel I'm so fat. People are going to look at me and wonder why I'm in here, and they're going to talk, whisper at me behind my back. When in reality, they're thinking, "Good for you." Good for you for being in here, putting the work in. So, and I think that's that internal monologue we have with ourselves that just makes us, you know, fear everything we can. Fear a lot of things we shouldn't. And thinking critically about new media feature, Matthew Tarpey from the Career Builders lists several hard and soft skills you will need to make it in the future workforce, which following is not one of those skills. D, delegation, right? But I will say learning to delegate is super important. As someone who's managed people for many, many years in quite a few different industries, um, people who cannot delegate have a really hard time. The micromanagers, which no one likes to be micromanaged, but the people who do that cause themselves undue stress. I know, and I always say, anybody ever been micromanaged here? Had a boss that just would not leave you alone and let you do your job, even though you're more than capable? How terrible is that? That's just the worst. Mary's at me right now. Uh-oh. And honestly, on a personal note, I never put up with it. I usually, my idea, which don't take, this is a good example, is when you have a supervisor, a boss, whatever you want to call them, I always consider them, they're there when I need them. That's what they're for. They tell me, they let me know what to do. And then if I have issues, they're there to assist me. Otherwise, just leave me alone. Let me do what I'm supposed to be doing. Set me on the proper path and leave me alone. Um, we worked. Your but your mother micro. Oh, I can't imagine work with my mom. Oh, that would be terrible. I mean, I'm not saying for you, just for me. Um, but then again, my wife and I worked together for years as well, and I will not go back to that. That was, um, too much. So, gender freedom consists of um, we have our good days and our bad. I bet so. Making thoughtful choices that reflect your genuine desires and deepest values. What Mandy said. Oh, come on now. What is going on? There we go. Had me worried. I was afraid my internet was going to go out. I pay all this money for. Hi, Tammy. Um, we pay all this money for this high speed internet, and it is really unreliable in the last few weeks. What should you do to live a life that is stimulating and rewarding over the course of many years? Yep, deep and abiding interest. I agree. Um, have rational explanations for everything you do. We call those excuses, right? It may be rational, but they're probably not correct. And accepting your fate doesn't always work out either. That's giving up. And finally, last one in this chapter. Good gosh, we're almost done. We're almost done with this class, aren't we? Where'd the time get away? 25. Oh. According to psychologist Carl Rogers, the good life is a psychological freedom to move in any direction. They talk about tension reduction, fixed state like virtue, contentment, nirvana, or happiness. And once again, happiness is the journey, not the uh, destination. Okay, when you if you consider happiness and fulfillment a destination, you're always going to be disappointed, right? Because you get there, and then so that once again that I go back to we have to have a purpose, and all in human beings we always have to continue to move forward. All right, so everybody should get all these right. You can come back and watch the video tomorrow, and that's one chapter down. Um, so I am going to take this opportunity to once again express this is the last week of class, ladies and gentlemen. If you are behind and you need to get caught up, you got to take the opportunity now. If you have some extenuating circumstances, please communicate with me, and I will see what I can do. But I will be honest, they are tightening up on us quite a bit as far as what we're allowed to do to give extensions, and we're having to get permissions. Um, I do have a little bit of leeway, but past a certain point, it involves a lot of times the registrar, uh, Bob, and up and up and up the chain, because grades have to be put in no later than Wednesday. And if your grade's not going to go in by then, I have to have a really good reason, and then we can make exceptions to the registrar to hold off on that. I don't see anybody who is really truly not able to catch up. There are a couple of people here who need to get the head down, sweat rolling. And once again, always do your discussions. Nobody is looking at you like, you know, I can't believe they said that. They may not agree, but everybody else is doing the same thing you're doing. So, and even these next classes, just and talk about procrastination for a minute. If that's the thing you hate, do that thing first. Get it out of the way, because if you're putting it off and putting it off and looking at it, it becomes, you start building these barricades in your way to getting that done. And next thing you know, 3, 4, 5 days a week later, you just give up on it and say, I'm not doing it at all. And then you have to pay the price for it, and many times it's your grade. So I look forward to anybody know who has business communications next class? Anybody? Nobody. He's like, I don't know. Whatever class I'm in, right? Well, anybody has business communications, that will be me starting next Monday with that. You have business. Oh, you have accounting. That will be Bob. Adam might. I haven't. Oh, no, the accounting is not hard math. It is not hard math, Mary. It is, really basic. Medical office administration, financial accounting, business principles. Okay. All right. So we have, I'll see some of you, but some of you I won't. But all right. Well, I appreciate you showing up. If anybody needs to stick around, um, that's fine. Let me go ahead and stop the recording, which means it's officially over. Although, if you could hold